Welcome to this special edition of The World Over from the Republican National Convention in Cleveland, Ohio. I'm Raymond Arroyo. We have some of the best analysis of this gathering with many of the newsmakers who shaped this GOP convention. Representative Sean Duffy, his wife Rachel Campos-Duffy, Laura Ingraham, Eric Trump, Michael Steele, Newt Gingrich, and actor Robert Davi are all straight ahead. First, the Duffys. Wisconsin Congressman Sean Duffy and his wife Rachel took to the stage early in the week to talk family, life, and score a few political points. Congressman Duffy, Rachel, I want to start with, we watched your speech the other day, and we'll show everybody a little clip. This was from earlier this week.
The family of 10, it gets a little crazy. So we have some pretty simple rules in our house. Clean your room.
No teenage boys in your bedroom.
No waking mom and dad up on Saturday mornings.
No private servers in the basement.
And no lying.
Especially to the FBI.
Guys, you saw that line there. Many of the speakers this week have been attacking Hillary Clinton for her various imbroglios. You made the negative case there last night, and we've heard that repeatedly. What is the affirmative case for Donald Trump?
And we had a little fun doing it too, Raymond, by the way.
I think the positive case is people want to grow the economy. They want a better paying job. They want upward mobility. And if they look at Donald Trump, he's a job creator. He's created thousands of jobs for families all across America. Hillary Clinton, she's created jobs for Bill and for Chelsea. That's it. They want security. They're concerned about ISIS. They're concerned about Russia and China. They look at the cop killings across America. The men and women who keep us safe in our communities are being attacked by groups like Black Lives Matter. And Hillary Clinton is someone who's supporting Black Lives Matter, and so is Barack Obama. They look at that stuff, and they believe that Donald Trump will keep them safe and help grow the economy. That's the affirmative case.
Some have said that this week was it was a tale of two conventions, because on one hand you had the kind of disgruntled never Trump factions. On the other hand, we saw Trump and his family. They put on an amazing show. Trump had you broke all convention by coming out here early. He didn't come on the last day of the convention, but was sprinkled throughout. A smart move, and what does it tell us about his candidacy and who he'll be as a possible president?
I just think it means he's unpredictable. He's willing to break the rules. He's not feeling bound by tradition. He's doing it his own way. And I think there's a lot of people in this room that kind of appreciate it. Frankly, there's not a lot of love for the way things have always been done. I mean, I think people are really open to seeing it changed up.
They want a little shake-up.
Yeah, why not?
There has not been a lot of talk this week of faith, of the moral issues that drive so many people to the polling places. Why not? Why do you think that was a muted part of this week's?
I think it's a mistake. And I will tell you that there are people that I have spoken to who are supporting Trump who say he better come out in that speech on Thursday and really reaffirm his position on life, because there's still questions about it. And so I think that's something that I hope he's listening to those voices.
Does Pence help, having Pence on the ticket?
Pence is a man of faith. I do think that helps the ticket. But I'll tell you here, Raymond, walking around this convention, this is a group of people, many of them are people of faith. You hear a lot of God bless yous and religious references, which I think is inspiring, that part of our party is still alive and well and meaningful to people. And I think if you want to energize and motivate people to go to the polls, you have to tap in to the faith component within the Republican Party conglomerate, if you will. And religious liberty is such a big difference between the two parties. We need to preserve that, and I think if Donald Trump could talk a little more, at least about that issue, I think that goes a long way to making sure that we feel comfortable that we're going to be able to practice our faith the way we have over our American history.
Rachel Duffy, in your talk, you invoked your parents,
Yes.
immigrants from Mexico who came here seeking a better life. When you look at the polling numbers for Donald Trump, and I won't revisit them now,
Yeah.
he's not exactly lighting up the world with support among Hispanics, even Hispanic citizens here. Well, that's who they poll,
Yeah.
Hispanic
Yeah.
citizens. What are they missing, in your estimation, that this party can provide or Trump can provide in some way?
Well, and it's an opportunity for Trump if he decides to take this tack with Hispanics. He talks a lot about immigration, but let's be real. When you poll Hispanics, that ranks about number 4 in their list of priorities. So I think if he focused more on entrepreneurship, you and I have had interviews about the Hispanic community. They start businesses at 3 times the rate of the average American, highly entrepreneurial. That's something that, you know, that Trump, I mean, let's face it, the guy has a reality show about capitalism. So, you know, this is something he could hit. They'd be smart to do that. And frankly, opportunity and hard work has always been the way to success and been the reason why people come here.
Okay, I got to talk about this Melania cribbing or plagiarizing, according to some of the press. Yes, the brouhaha over Melania borrowing some lines from Michelle Obama's speech of several years ago. Is this a real burning issue, and does anybody care?
Well, I think the media cares because they want to create a controversy out of nothing.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure that I'm not sure that she plagiarized. I mean, when I saw the 2 speeches together, I thought, wow, Michelle Obama has really plagiarized, you know, the opportunity message that has been the platform of the Republican Party.
But the line, they used the same line at one point. They were
did
exactly the same line.
It's
They're
pretty
making
generic
this-
stuff, though. I mean, it's like, you know, I just thought they were trying to find something because, frankly, she looked spectacular out there. She looked like the first lady that
and delivered her speech well.
Well,
And
it was
she
a lot,
did.
and it was a way for the media to my eye, it was a way for the media to not talk about the Gold Star mother we heard, the Benghazi business,
Sure.
Rudy Giuliani, and Melania's Trump her big coming out party.
Yeah.
That was all brushed aside, and it became Melania stole from Michelle Obama's speech.
And her speech was not controversial, so they had to bring controversy to it. Maybe they were expecting
But it
that.
goes to the point that Donald Trump has to be better. You can't open yourself up for these kind of attacks because the media will take them, they'll run with them, and they'll run over your story and your message. So be better.
There's no room for misstep at all.
Whether you're on stage, you have to be more scripted. You have to dot your I's and cross your T's, because if you don't, the media is going to drive a truck through your message, and they did that with Melania's speech last night, and I think it's too bad. Hopefully the American people will see
And it speaks to
through
another
it.
weakness he has, which has been his organization. Not dotting those I's, not crossing those T's.
You hear the excitement of these delegates behind me as they embrace Donald Trump, and they're excited to go out and take the message beyond this hall. Will you ever get the Never Trump faction that really held firmly that they might be able to somehow get a foothold here and put another candidate forward? Can you ever win them over to Donald Trump and to the direction that you're moving in?
On Monday night, that was the last dying gasp of the Never Trump movement. Right now, Donald Trump is getting the nomination, and I think those people who are Never Trump are going to have to confront reality. Either I'm going to vote for Donald Trump, or I'm going to vote for Hillary Clinton. Or if I stay home, that's a vote for Hillary Clinton. And I think those people in the end are going to look at what Hillary is going to do, which is going to bring us further to the left, more socialist policies that don't help us with our faith, that don't help us with our economy and our strength. And I think they're going to come to Donald Trump in the end. Now, it's going to take a little while. This week is a week of unification. They still have months to get there, but I do think they will get there.
And who knows, maybe on Thursday when he gives that speech, if he delivers it right, if he has the right message, if he feels like, for once, remember he keeps saying, I can be presidential. There's some questions about that still. Maybe he'll actually give a speech that makes us feel like he really is presidential material. And that might just be the moment that a lot of these people come together. But you never know with Trump.
It's always a wild card and a surprise.
Melania said it last night. She said, if it's Trump, there's drama. So
Yes, there is. That's true.
We'll take her word on that. Rachel Duffy, Congressman Duffy,
Raymond,
thank you so
thank you.
much. Great to see you.
On the second to last night of the GOP convention, radio talk show host and LifeSet editor-in-chief Laura Ingraham lit up this arena. She received the loudest and longest applause of the convention before the nominee spoke, and she made headlines around the world. Joining me now is Laura Ingraham.
To all my friends up there in the press, You all know why in your heart Donald Trump won the Republican nomination. You know it. You know why he won it? Because he dared to call out the phonies, the frauds, and the corruption that has gone unexposed and uncovered for too long. Too long. Do your job.
Laura Ingraham, thanks for being here. Well, we just heard that scathing indictment of the media. This House went crazy. I was on the floor. I thought they were going to knock me over from the people jumping and kicking. Why did they react that way?
I think there's just a sense among people that people don't get a fair shake. Conservatives don't get a fair shake in the traditional media. We have internet, we have shows like yours, we have talk radio, but the people who are supposed to be reporters are now echoers, and so they're kind of enablers, co-conspirators. A lot of people think with the American left. So facts that are inconvenient go unreported. Stories that are unpleasant for the left get scant attention or downplayed. And meanwhile, the smallest thing that happens with Trump or anyone connected to him, they try to blow it up and do, division at the convention, chaos at the convention. Like, people are looking at it. People are having a great time. They're dancing yesterday. People are having an awesome time. So I think people are tired of it. They think a lot of these controversies are phony and fraudulent. And, I knew that people here would like it, and I believe it. So.
Well, it was unbelievable. I mean, it really was unbelievable on the floor. Longest and loudest applauses.
Oh, they said that. That was nice.
Well, there was the moment we played, and then there was this moment where you particularly called attention to those unwilling to embrace Donald Trump, particularly those who faced him in the primary. Watch this.
We should all, even all you boys with wounded feelings and bruised egos, and we love you, but you must honor your pledge to support Donald Trump now, tonight.
Now, some people took your advice. Didn't look like Ted Cruz took your advice at all. John Kasich hasn't shown his face in this convention hall. What would you say to them?
Well, John Kasich was in town this week, and a very good friend of mine who owns a very nice Italian restaurant said John Kasich was having lunch with the top liberal donor to the Democrat Party and a few other folks, having a wonderful lunch, sitting down and chatting him up, multi-millionaire. So John Kasich has plenty of time to have break bread with liberals, but he can't come and greet the good people who have come here. There's a pettiness, a bitterness, and an element of selfishness in all of this on the part of the stragglers in the Republican Party.
Clearly,
it's also disrespect to the people. They voted in huge numbers for Donald Trump. There was a big field. He clear-cut through all of them, including John Kasich, and sorry, Ted, but including you, Ted Cruz.
Well, we heard that even his Texas delegation, apparently,
they weren't
Ted Cruz
happy.
Appeared before them, and they were chanting Trump when he showed up today. But the reaction he got here yesterday from the donors up in these big booths to the people on the floor, I don't think I've ever seen
I have
someone
been coming to conventions now for 20 years. I've been covering them for 20 years. This is my 20th anniversary at the conventions. I have never ever seen someone who's finished so strong in the primaries, to then have the headline be booed off the stage. I mean, that's a phrase you just don't ever want. If you give a speech, you don't want that.
Ted Cruz clearly believes he is crafting and carving out a place for himself in 2020. So does John Kasich. They think if they take their time, if they keep their distance from Trump, they can be a leader. Well, can they emerge a leader coming out of this?
No. You tell me how Ted Cruz and on John Kasich can possibly win national office without the Trump voters. How do they possibly win national office? These are millions and millions of devoted Republicans who waited in long lines and who took him at his word. Now, what he said today was, well, he insulted Heidi and it's slander, and I didn't pledge to support someone who slanders. First of all, he retweeted a photo he shouldn't have tweeted, okay, about Melania on one side and Heidi on the other. He then followed it and said, Heidi's a beautiful woman. So that was obviously his way of apologizing. Now, are we to believe that if Donald Trump hadn't sent out that tweet and hadn't said the thing about or posted the thing about JFK, that Ted Cruz would have been here last night extolling his virtues and endorsing him? The answer is, probably not. But if the only way to defeat Hillary is not to offend Ted Cruz, then that's just a very interesting barometer that we now have in place.
You look at the polling numbers among women. Donald Trump has a huge advantage among men, but he has a disadvantage among women.
Yeah, married
nationally.
woman he does better, but he needs to make up
How
ground.
does he do that?
I think he has to show his heart a little bit more. You can be tough, but you also have to have that magnanimity and the heart, which he does have if you know Donald Trump. His sons spoke about that. You're going to hear Ivanka, Ivanka speaking about this, of course, as well, and she's been on the trail speaking about it. But a little bit of the heart, you could throw a punch, but a little hug every once in a while. And I think mothers, women, they want a secure America. And the millennials who are watching out there, I mean, it's got to get better than this for you. I mean, you can be mad at Trump and think he said some things he shouldn't have said. I understand that. But is this good enough for you? Is this whole situation in this country really acceptable? And if it is, go vote for Hillary.
I want to ask you for a moment about the message coming out of this convention.
Yes.
Obviously, unity was something they tried to achieve. The media play of this is that it was not achieved, and Ted Cruz is Exhibit A, that unity cannot be and is not possible in this party. What's the message coming out? And is this party more unified coming out of Cleveland?
I think it's not anything surprising. We have the people who are committed globalists and just bitter people and sour grapes. They decide they're going to put the country in the back seat and their own personal ambitions in the front seat. Ted Cruz is one of them. And he's looking at 2020. And I think you listen to this hall tonight and you listen to last night, these people know we do not have 4 years to throw down the drain to hope that in 4 years everyone's going to see how great Ted Cruz is. I mean, he did not convince the voters, Raymond, that he was the one to lead the country. That's too bad. I think Ted has incredible intellect. I think he made a cataclysmic mistake last night. He did not listen to people who frankly know better than he does. He had no sense of the room. He had no sense of the audience. You know this from all your experience in theater and everything that you've done. You don't know the room when you walk into the room. They'll kill you. No. They will eat you up and spit you out, and that's what they did to him. And it was an ugly sight to behold, but he can't say we didn't warn him.
I have to bring something up. In the immediate aftermath of your speech last night, you had the Daily Mail in London, you had the New York Times, you had Politico saying this is the biggest speech of the night.
Yeah, CNN actually did a really nice piece.
Everybody was really extolling it.
Very nice.
Overnight, something happened, and we suddenly saw these memes showing up, clips, freeze frames of you as you're saying goodbye to this convention after your speech, and you're waving, and your hand is in the air, and people are saying, well, this is a Nazi salute.
Yeah, because that would be a really smart thing for a person in television to do, to like wink a Nazi salute. I thought about this, and I thought to myself, if the speech wasn't received very well, if I hadn't called out the media, then I have a feeling, a freeze frame, that pretty much anyone, we've seen them all, and maybe we'll show some of Hillary doing the same kind of wave. They probably wouldn't have done that. But I hit them right between the eyes with a slingshot last night about their failure to report really important stories fairly, and they don't like being called out. They're another set of elites. They refuse to be called out. But now I guess we can only wave down here. We have to do like a mini wave. You can't ever raise your hand. You have to just get some with a reversible tape and hold it on your body and go, hi, everybody. I personally think that looks weird. And I guess you can't point to the crowd. You can't call out people because all the photos I've seen today, Raymond, we have people like Barack Obama waving that way. We have every politician known to man, unless you wave down here, like this. Or you can do the royal wave or the papal wave. Maybe that's appropriate for EWTN. The papal wave.
Hands. Do the two-hander.
Yeah, two. I mean,
never above the shoulders.
What can you do? I mean, I just have to say, it's really, really gratifying that is what they're criticizing me for. Because you notice there is no substantive criticism, really, of what I said last night. So I wear it as a badge of honor, and I just have to laugh. I mean, it's like, you want to go out there and throw punches. You have to be willing to take punches, but obviously it's ridiculous.
Laura Ingraham, thank you for
being here.
Great
to see you, Raymond. Good to see you here.
For a sense of how this convention differs from earlier gatherings of the GOP and some issues of race swirling around this campaign, we sat with former chairman of the Republican National Committee, Michael Steele. Chairman Steele, thanks so much for coming.
It's good to be back.
Why is this convention working? I have to say, there's a snap, there's a crackle in the air.
Right.
Usually these are very predictable, almost, this is like watching the tapioca dry. It's a little more exciting this week.
It is. I think because it's the unconventional convention, because we have an unconventional nominee. I mean, who comes out on the first night of the convention, blue smoke, you know, the whole silhouette.
Like Elvis or WWF.
It's like a Michael Jackson video. Yeah. And you're sitting there going, what? And it's just that sort of, you know, expectation, okay, what's going to happen next? Now, having said that, there is also on the floor, and I'm sure you've picked this up as well, a certain sort of pall that's there because there's still this tension among a number of the delegates over what transpired on Monday with the vote on the rules.
Right.
And certainly that frustration still exists. So tonight, I think, is going to be a turning point when Pence speaks and starts to move the party closer in towards Trump, bringing those conservatives to the table in a way that helps them begin to appreciate the overarching message of the nominee.
Now, if you know anything about Hoosiers, you know we love to suit up and compete. We play to win. That's why I joined this campaign in a heartbeat. You have nominated a man for president who never quits, who never backs down, a fighter, a winner. Until now, he's had to do it all by himself against all odds. But this week, with this united party, he's got backup. And on November 8th, I know we will elect Donald Trump to be the 45th president of the United States of America.
You referenced it a moment ago. You still have Senator Mike Lee. You've got Jeff Flake.
Yes.
You've got Ken Cuccinelli from Virginia.
Oh, yeah.
You've got John Kasich defecting in place right here in Ohio.
Right.
What do you say to these people who still are holding out? They're saying, we just can't support Trump.
They can't get there. I think, I appreciate where they are. I really do. Everyone's going to make their own personal choice and decision, whether you're an elected official or an activist, come this November. My hope is that they reconcile in some way. I don't think they will. We have to move on.
Can you win without them?
I think you can. I think you can, because he did. He won the primary without them. He got more votes than any Republican in the history of the party without them. So from Donald Trump's perspective, he's pushing in a different direction.
I want to talk for a moment about Ben Carson.
Yes.
Dr. Ben Carson spoke here earlier in the week.
Yep.
There was a lot of talk going into this convention, and even as it began, where people of faith and faithful voters said, wait a minute, there's nothing here for us. Nobody's saying anything even remotely related to the issues that we hold dear.
Right.
Ben Carson gets up and he mentioned faith,
he
but then he
brought up
said,
Lucifer.
he brought up Lucifer and said Hillary Clinton affirms or somehow acknowledges
Acknowledges
Lucifer via Saul Alinsky.
Right,
okay?
Now, okay, there's a roadmap for that.
Play?
There's a
how
roadmap
does
for
this
that, I'm
play
sure.
to faith-inflected and faith-driven voters? Does it have any influence?
I will be honest on that point, and I think it's an excellent question simply because I don't think it has that much of a sway, because I don't think people make that leap. I would bet that if you lined up 10 people and asked them about the forward to, Saul's book, Alinsky's book, Rules for Radicals, they wouldn't know it referenced,
Well, that was apparently Ben Carson, apparently that was a riff. That was off script.
Right.
So he just kind of
tossed that in.
Which a number of people have done this week. Rudy Giuliani went way off script.
Oh, yeah, as did Chris Christie a little bit.
Right.
And that's all good, but it's got to relate back. And I think that's why I said there's a roadmap to get to where Ben Carson was going with that. But I don't think a lot of people are on that road. I appreciate the point he was making, and he was trying to make that connection. But understand this. When it comes to Christian voters, evangelical voters, so far as we've seen, they're supporting Trump not because he's super Christian, not because he's a good Christian.
Right.
They're supporting him because there are other things in their life that matter equally, or not more, but equally as much, or as important to them, because their husband, their wife, family members been unemployed for a long time. They're not on good footing. They're fearful of where the country's headed overall. So he's making an appeal, as we've seen through the primary, in a different direction. I think what Ben Carson was doing is kind of doing the old wraparound. So let me bring it home for you, so you fully understand why what he's doing is so important.
He has gone on record, Donald Trump, as saying he would protect Christian minorities.
Yes.
He's going to fight ISIS. During a 60 Minutes interview last week, he talked about religious liberty being important, and that he would move to ensure that continues and that he reinforces it. Is that enough? Given the numbers we're seeing among the evangelicals seem to be moving his way.
Right.
The Catholic voters, only 19%.
19%,
yeah.
And Catholic voters are an interesting voting bloc because
it's a swing vote.
It's a swing vote, and they rely less on the metrics that evangelicals do. All right, so evangelicals are looking in traditional races, looking at that Christian value system. Catholic voters consider that, but they also consider your view on climate change, your view on the economy. So it's a very different piece for them. But you raised, I think, an important point to sort of capstone the discussion on this particular vote. They know, they feel in their gut that of all the candidates, certainly this was true in the primary, he would be the one who would fight the hardest for them. He raises it in a way, in a language that they use. And Donald Trump does. And that makes the big difference because
he won overwhelming majorities of Catholics.
He's speaking their language.
Yeah, Florida.
He's speaking their language.
So why isn't it moving now in his direction?
Again, I think it's those other issues. I think there's, there are other aspects about that argument that they're just not buying it. That's what the general election hopefully will turn around for him. But to get to the primary, the evangelical voter, Christian voter in particular, appreciated the fact that he was going to stand firm in protecting them and their liberties.
I have to talk about race relations here. We've been watching these stories coming out of Dallas, of Orlando. I mean, one city after Baton Rouge, my home state, one thing after another. 60% of Americans believe race relations have gotten worse over the last few years. When you look at Donald Trump's support among African Americans,
not good.
89% favor Hillary Clinton, 4% Donald Trump.
Yeah.
How does he turn that around? Can he?
I two things on that. One, I wouldn't put a whole lot of value in that poll. And in the poll that was, I think, out of Cuyahoga County here in Ohio that showed 0%. Yeah. I ran to a number of people on the street and they were like, well, I kind of like Trump, so that should be 0.01. So, I don't put a whole lot of stock
Omarosa aside.
Omarosa aside. I think that the fact of the matter is Donald Trump has an opportunity to make a specific argument in a general way. In other words, he can talk about education, school choice, talk about the health care situation in the black community, particularly with respect to how the black community is redlined in health care. And they pay more in premiums and things like that for health insurance. And when he's talking about a broader argument that lifts everybody and how he wants to move the country forward, they still don't feel they hear them in his voice. In other words, they don't see themselves being recognized. I think he wants to do that, from at least what I understand inside the campaign. That's going to be part of the shift coming out of this convention. Look, this was about winning a Republican primary. Not a whole lot of black folks voting in a Republican primary. All right, so that's number one. Now moving into a general, he sees where his opportunities are in places like New York, California, Florida, where there's significant black populations. I think you're going to see him make a push there.
I got another question for you. As to Hillary Clinton lying to the American people about her selfish, awful judgment in making our secrets vulnerable, what's your verdict? Guilty or not guilty? Now, time after time, the facts, and just the facts, lead you to the same verdict, both around the world and here at home. In Libya and Nigeria, guilty. In China and Syria, in Iran and Russia and Cuba, and here at home for risking America's secrets to keep her own and lying to cover it all up?
This convention, a lot of it, has focused on Hillary Clinton. Convicting Hillary Clinton, calling out Hillary Clinton and her record. She has a record. Donald Trump doesn't. He was in the private sector.
Right.
When does that turn take place, and what form do you think it will take? How does it look from your perspective?
That's, Hillary's got a problem. I mean, people generally don't like her. And they don't trust her.
And after $100 million plus of ads, the numbers are not moving in her direction.
It's not moving anything. And last, when Chris Christie gave out his indictment, when he laid down the hammer on that, what we'd seen before was the sort of disparate conversation where it was a little bit Benghazi over here, a little bit email over there. He stacked it all together. The donations, the relationships, the emails. When you saw it all stacked together, when you heard it, you were like, wow.
Yeah.
And he did that very effectively. If they continue with that, and he's the best prosecutor for that, Hillary's going to have a lot more to worry about.
When I was on that floor last night, I know they were saying guilty, guilty. I was waiting for them to yell crucify, crucify.
I felt like that at one point.
Yeah, I was waiting for Barabbas to show up. I mean, it was quite an epic scene.
Exactly.
Michael Steele, any final thoughts on coming out of this convention? What did you make of this compared to the other conventions? You were in charge of a few.
Right. Yeah.
What do you make of this?
This one is different. This one's very different. There is sort of a lull, sort of a drag. My hope is that Donald Trump takes the opportunity to really lift the voters up outside the convention hall, but most especially his base inside the hall. He needs these people to go fight for him this November.
Very good. Michael Steele,
Right,
thanks as always
Thank
for being
you.
here.
Absolutely.
Great as always.
Alrighty.
Thank you. We are delighted to be joined by Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. He, of course, this House lit up when he took the stage the other night. Newt, thanks for being here.
Glad to be with you, as always.
I want to start with those who, in conscience, say they cannot support Donald Trump. You would say what at this point to them?
Fine. If you and your conscience can live with Hillary Clinton moving the Supreme Court to a radical left, destroying religious liberty, taking away the Second Amendment, having a terrible foreign policy, and continuing to cripple the economy, then your conscience must be all right. But don't tell me in the real world that your conscience is divinely better than reality.
Hillary Clinton herself just the other day said, Donald Trump is the most dangerous man to ever run for president. He lacks the temperament. He lacks the experience, Newt. Is there an argument to be made here?
Well, first of all, look at her experience. She deleted 30,000 emails illegally. She's engaged in 76 secret meetings as Secretary of State with donors illegally. She appointed this financier to a nuclear weapons advisory group who had no experience. She lost Libya. She helped lose Syria. She had a total disaster with Russia. If this is experience, that's like somebody showing up to be school bus driver because they have 11 drunk driving charges.
I like the way you put that. Let's talk for a moment about Ted Cruz the other night. He came out, was greeted with scorn, boos, cries of honor your pledge. You followed him. What happened? You adjusted your speech. Let me play this, and then we'll talk about what you did. Roll that.
Now, I think you misunderstood one paragraph that Ted Cruz, who is a superb orator, said. And I just want to point it out to you. Ted Cruz said, you can vote your conscience for anyone who will uphold the Constitution. In this election, there is only one candidate who will uphold the Constitution.
You suggest there that this was a backdoor endorsement. Is it really, Newt?
No, but the way he worded it, if he meant his words, you should vote your conscience as long as you vote for somebody who supports the Constitution. Well, the choice between Trump and Pence and Hillary and whoever, the only choice you could possibly make if you care about the Constitution is for Trump and Pence. I was just trying to point out, even by his own words, you would have to end up endorsing Trump and Pence.
I spoke to some of Ted Cruz's supporters, his advisors, some of the delegates on the floor who were still supporting him as of today. They claim he is setting up a run for 2020, and this is good political strategy. If there's any strategist better in the Republican Party, I've never seen him other than yourself. What is your take on that strategy?
Well, if the Ted Cruz theory is that if he's the man who helps Hillary Clinton win the presidency, he will then be in a position to run against her in 4 years. He's not going to find a very big Republican base excited about somebody who betrayed his own party out of pure personal ego and ambition. I don't think that's what happened. I think what happened was Ted Cruz has almost no sense of interpersonal skills. He's a brilliant guy intellectually, but there's a reason he's the most disliked man in the U.S. Senate. And he just showed you last night. You don't get invited into somebody's house and walk in and pour acid on the roses. If he had to do that, he shouldn't have come. If he couldn't be gracious and generous, which Trump was, I mean, Trump allowed him to come. Trump even knew what the speech was and allowed him to give it.
Now, some are saying the Melania plagiarism kerfluffle, what we saw with Ted Cruz the other night, that these are signs that the Trump campaign
wasn't in control of their own convention.
No, I think these
Any
are
truth?
signs that the elite media is so desperate that they are picking anything they can to exaggerate. For example, Mike Pence had a great introductory speech.
Yeah.
The nation saw a potential vice president who fits virtually every conservative value in his own life, in his job as governor, in his role in the Congress. But of course, the media didn't want to cover that.
But isn't that an example of letting Ted Cruz in prime time? That totally overshadowed Pence. It stole so many of the headlines from him.
But I don't. Well, I think there's also a choice here of why the media suddenly decides that Ted Cruz matters. The media took 50 words out of Melania's speech. Okay, you have a vice president of the United States, Joe Biden, who had to drop out of the presidential race in '88 because he stole entire speeches from Neil Kinnock, the labor leader. You have a president, Barack Obama, who stole large chunks of a speech from the governor of Massachusetts. Somehow in the media, they're good liberals. You have to understand it's all right. But they had an excuse. And by the way, I think it just built Melania bigger because more people know her name, more people are aware of her. She's stunningly attractive. She's very smart. I tell reporters, how many languages can you debate in? She can talk in 5 languages. Okay?
I want to talk for a moment about Paul Ryan, your successor as Speaker of the House, down the road a bit. He got on this floor and made an argument for his Better Way plan. Now, this is something Paul Ryan has been advocating for a good long time. It has shades of the contract with America in it. However, he differs, and that agenda differs, in marked ways in trade, in immigration, from Donald Trump. Is there something a little off about pushing a separate agenda from the one that your nominee is heralding and that the people are rallying behind him for?
Look, I think what you have here is the tension of a party in transition. You have people who grew up, and this is certainly me. I mean, you know, I was the whip who helped get votes for NAFTA. I got more votes for NAFTA than Clinton and Gore combined.
I remember.
But I will tell you that looking back 20 years later, I am for Trump's rethinking of our trade policy because we're getting ripped off. I mean, the Chinese last year, according to the National Director of Intelligence, stole $360 billion in U.S. intellectual property. Well, that's not free trade, that's theft. So I think that there are times you rethink things. Paul represents in many ways a very serious, very sophisticated effort to create a more positive Republican Party. I thought it was a big deal that last night he came out there and he introduced Mike Pence. I thought that alone justified picking Pence for vice president. They're going to end up being a team. My hope is that by September we will find 7 to 9 things that Ryan and Mitch McConnell and Trump can agree on. There could be a contract this fall to show you that we're going to argue about lots of stuff, but there's also a lot of stuff we can get done.
Final analysis of this week here in Cleveland. Did it draw this party together? Are they unified behind Donald Trump?
Well, it certainly created an enormous amount of energy in the country. The ratings have been sky high. I suspect when Trump speaks tonight that the ratings will be through the roof. If Trump delivers, and we're sitting here beforehand, he's got to do 2 things. He's got to give us a biography which convinces us he can be president. He's got to give us a vision which convinces us he should be president. Ivanka's going to be terrific introducing him, and she's going to get a tremendous response. And if he delivers, he will leave here with a very big head of wind going towards the presidency.
Newt Gingrich, always
Good to
great
see
to
you.
talk to you.
Always
Thank you
fun.
for being here. And finally, I ran into actor and singer Robert Davi in the halls of this convention in Cleveland. We talked about the showmanship on display throughout the week. Robert Davi, thank you so much for being with me.
Raymond Arroyo, it's wonderful to be here with you, my friend.
I want to talk about Donald Trump, the showman. If anybody is qualified to talk about this dimension of this campaign, we saw it the other night when he made his first appearance here. There was the white screen,
like
just
the Undertaker
shadow.
in the WWE. I was waiting for the chiming of those bong, bong.
We might hear it
that
yet.
was killed.
It's not over.
I love that. That was
what
great.
Did you
Very
make
theatrical.
of that moment? And is that what has distinguished him this campaign?
Well, you got to realize you had the JFK presidency that had that same kind of understanding of the media and culture. You had Reagan, who had the same kind of understanding of media of the culture. Now we're here, and those were, 60 and 40 years ago. Now we're here in 2016, dealing with video games and multimedia, social media, a whole different way of the youth looking at the world. And Donald Trump comes at this particular moment and absolutely slays the field in terms of his understanding of culture and media. Hence, that wonderful introduction that I may use that on my show.
And what are the issues? What are the issues that you think are driving the electorate at this moment? Why was he able to cut through all that competition and arrive here at this convention in Cleveland?
Well, I think that for the last decade or so, there's been both the left and the right has let the American people down. The first rumblings of the discontent was with Ross Perot. Remember? And he said NAFTA's you're going to hear the sucking sound of jobs leaving America. And for some reason, Ross Perot didn't have the stamina or the fortitude to stick out the media attacks. You know? That's just on that level. But you have an immigrant population that's no longer assimilating in America since 1965. People understand this. People understand that you lose American values, the Judeo-Christian values, if a society does not assimilate. Us as Italian-American, our Italian-American immigrants came over from Italy, Sicily and Naples, my people came from. Yours?
Sicily.
Sicily.
Sicily, Naples. My
Sicily and
grandmother's
Naples,
in
right.
Naples.
You told me that. And now we have, when they came, it was speak of the English. You know, they enlisted in the U.S. infantry. They raised the American flag. To be American was proud. You weren't victimized. You were taught to respect the country you're living in. It wasn't presto for Sicilian and Napolitan. You know what I mean? We've lost that. So just on the immigrant side of it, you have this multiculturalism whereby we used to have e pluribus unum. We are now going to be Kosovo in 25 years. People, I think, inherently, those of us that remember a certain kind of America, understand that. That's why the first speech that Obama gave, that riveting speech of, it's not a black America or a white America or a red America, there's one, resonated. Well, here, and he didn't unite us. He did not unite us. And you have to start with the immigrant population and hold accountability for illegal immigration. And then his jobs, the economy, trade, America first. So you have America, and I go around the world, as you do, and I know people want an exceptional America. They want a strong America. And we haven't had that. We have not had that.
Tell me, I want to shift a little bit and talk about this convention. There have not been a lot of celebrities, not too many people from your neighborhood in Hollywood showing up here, a handful of folks. Why do you think that is? And what are you hearing when you're back home? You have been outspokenly and early on a supporter of Donald Trump.
Yes, very early on. Yeah, before I hit that, can I hit one other thing that I think is crucial, because this is a faith-based group that we're talking to, network. To me, when Donald Trump said, we have to say Merry Christmas again, I want Merry Christmas to be said again, he didn't talk about pro-life, pro-abortion. He talked about a cultural moment in America that was taken away. The pop culture of Merry Christmas. That's a battle we can win. We can win bringing Merry Christmas back to the public discourse, to say it's not season's greetings in school. Don't tell a kid he can't say that or wear a crucifix. That battle we can win, and we should be fighting that battle. So it was an off-the-cuff kind of comment, but to me it resonated in a very deep way. In answer to this other question, I find that you have in Hollywood, you know, look, everything is pack mentality, a lot of it. And they're very intelligent, concerned, very sensitive people. I'm not going to denigrate that aspect of it. The worldview is just very different than what I have and how I seem to have, that I've had, and some other people that I know have. I find that there are more below-the-line people that'll be going to me. The camera guys, the crew behind the camera. Hey, man, I loved what you just said. I'm with you. A lot of that. A lot of the other celebs will quietly say I'm there, but they make even you might think they're for the Democratic Party, but they're going to vote for Donald Trump quietly because it does hurt your career. You are stigmatized, and because all business is social. Yeah. If you're not going to a Hillary Clinton, God bless her soul, fundraiser that George Clooney is going to give, and you're not meeting 18 directors and showrunners, and they're not thinking about you. They just think of you as that guy. that's on the periphery of who they are, and you're on the periphery of the business anyway. So there's a disconnect on that hurts.
Tell me about what you thought of this convention. There was not total unity here when this convention started. There are still holdouts, John Kasich and others, senators who are still saying, you know, we should fight this. I can't support this candidate at all. You would say what to them?
I would say that, you know, they're being ridiculous and absurd right now. I don't appreciate that in the least. I think John Kasich is being selfish. He's being repugnant as far as I'm concerned, because at this point in time, if this is your city, if you can't come along and get on the help America here. I mean, Kasich is more, again, this is where the left and the right, I don't think it goes so much to, I think it's a globalist or America first. And I think some of that aspect might be there.
And you think this transcends any ideology or political affiliation?
In terms of what? Explain.
In terms of being either supporting this globalist mindset or an America First mindset, that can transcend parties. That's what we're saying.
Absolutely. That's why Donald Trump had so many independents coming, because people are waiting to hear that America First. And for, irrespective of the you know, and look, we all know, even in, let's say, I'll put this in Hollywood.
Okay.
A guy that never did a film, never made his bones, so to speak, okay? Or in the mob world.
Okay,
a mob
I'll
movie,
accept it.
All right? A guy that never made his bones. Here you have Donald Trump, who never made his political bones in their mind. And he comes in and he becomes the capo di tutti capi. All these other guys are gunning for him. It's a street fight.
Yeah.
And they're resentful. And they got their little crazy factions that refuse to acquiesce to what he's done. You know what I mean? And that's in the political game, because it's all the same. We're all in the same soup. You know what I mean? Chipino.
What are you looking for from Donald Trump at this convention? What does he have to say? What does he have to do, in your mind, to leave here victorious, achieving what he needed to achieve?
Right. Well, I think that's being done, I think, with Donald Jr. and Tiffany, exposing the American people to a different side, because that's a great accomplishment with his children. And then you had people making the case, like the operatic Rudy Giuliani, who was a paisan who absolutely, was that aria was intense.
Yeah, operatic is a good word. Rudy was really.
He was.
Woo.
Yeah, he was wonderful. I mean, it was very theatrical, and then Christie, who was measured and tactical. Mike Pence, and then the policy. You know, everyone talks about the policy thing, and he's laid out the policies. You know what I mean? To me, he's laid out the policies. We want to build a wall. We're not going to do TPP. We want
the question is, how do you do those things? That's the question.
Well,
okay, you're going to build a wall. How? I know Mexico's going to pay for it. How are they going to pay for it?
Well, first off,
what's the mechanism for that?
Well, any mechanism for anything until you get there. You know what I mean? How do you get there? First, what's the mechanism to go to the moon? You know, Ronald Reagan, I remember clearly how he was criticized when he said, I want to see a Star Wars defense. And I can see this, so any missile defense system. And they ridiculed and they laughed at him, and how are we going to get there? No, you have to have the vision first. But building the infrastructure of America, understanding the budgets, how to save money, he can do that. So this is, to me, it's again, that building of America, that mentality, that kind of individual that does that. That, to me, is really big.
Robert Davi, thank you for your words and for your insight and for being here. I'm just sorry we didn't hear Robert Davi filling this hall with song. That's what I expected, frankly.
Yeah, well, frankly, I wanted to. I would have loved to, especially last night. It was a sad moment for me. Exciting moment, but sad moment when the state I was born in put him over the top. They started playing New York, New York, and there was no vocal to it. You know, and I'm going, all they would have had to say was, Robert, if New York puts him over, get up there and sing New York. I mean, anyway, I don't want to even get into that, because it just, hey, as a guy we both love, that's life, man.
Yeah,
what the heck?
Exactly. Now, what's next? Tell me what's next.
Oh, well, I've got July 30th. I'll be at Foxwoods Casino in Connecticut. That's July 30th.
Wow.
Great performance. And then I'll be 3 nights at Feinstein's, 54 Below in New York, August 18th, 19th, and 20th.
Oh, well, I'm going to come see you there.
Will you?
I'm in New York.
Oh, good. 18th,
Great to
19th,
see you.
August.
Well, that is all the time we have, but a programming note. Be sure to tune in at 1 a.m. Eastern Time 10 p.m. Pacific for my exclusive interview with Eric Trump. We'll also bring you highlights of Donald Trump's final address to this GOP convention. Like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter. The links are at RaymondArroyo.com. And until then, we'll be scouting the world over for all that is seen and unseen. On behalf of the staff and crew of EWTN News, thank you for watching. I'm Raymond Arroyo from the Republican National Convention in Cleveland. Bye now.